Welcome to the Invernadero Mind Podcast. I am your host, Gabriela, and I'm so happy that you're here. Invernadero is Spanish for greenhouse. It represents light, life, and a home for bright minds. In this podcast, I discuss hot present topics in today's culture, and our guests share their successes, challenges, and their journey in finding balance between chasing their dreams while protecting their mind and spirit in this fast-paced culture. In this inclusive podcast, we talk to everyone. Stay tuned and let's get the conversation started. The next guest is someone who I admire. She is a Canadian blogger who is full of knowledge and passion for fashion. Her love for clothes and the environment offer a refreshing perspective on consumerism. And her blog Ever So Slow is full of good advice on how to live a stylish lifestyle while being mindful about our consumption and environmental footprint. She also invites us to explore politics and activism. Let's welcome Shanice Tadeo.
Hello, Shanice. How are you?
Hi, Gabrielle. I'm good. You?
Good. Thank you so much for doing this interview. I truly appreciate you taking the time. I know that you're super busy like everybody else and, especially on Sunday.
Yeah, no, honestly, no problem. Thank you so much for considering me and inviting me. I think it's really cool what you're doing with the podcast, so I'm happy to contribute as much as I can.
Tell us your story. How did you become interested in living a sustainable lifestyle?
Yeah, for sure. So I think mine's really started more in the fashion industry as a whole. So ever since I was younger, I just liked the fashion industry. It was something that interested me, something that I got from my mom, most likely. And I come from a family of sewers. So I grew up knowing how to sew. I learned to sew when I was 7 years old. And it's just like something that picked up. I was like, oh, I really love, creating clothes. I really love looking at clothes. So I just researched more into the industry. I gained more knowledge, and obviously little by little, I tend to discover, okay, there's a bad side to it too. Yeah. So once I got, doing research, being more curious and understanding this bad side. So the labor conditions, these big fashion brands, have international suppliers. What does that mean? What are the profits, the cost? And then it kind of got me more thinking. And then it just kind of clicked in me how, I didn't want to support this type of industry per se, just on a personal level. And then I stumbled upon a documentary, The True Cost. This is something that is super popular in the sustainability sphere. Yeah. So then just that, it was kind of okay, I can't continue what I'm doing now. And it just snowballed from there. I really went from super fashion enthusiast, shopping, looking at trends, being trendy, and then it just no, I can't.
Learning the dark side.
Exactly. And I can't continue doing what I'm doing now, knowing what I know.
Buying secondhand, was it a smooth change for you or was it difficult?
So I would say switching from fast fashion to thrifting, I think that was more of an easier transition because I've always thrifted in the past. Mm-hmm. So to me, there was no, the stigma that there is with secondhand. I didn't really feel it because I always loved thrifting. I always loved vintage pieces. I always found them unique and they kind of were affordable, just like fast fashion brands. Yeah. So switching from fast fashion to thrifting or vintage shopping or secondhand shopping in general was a bit easier. Yeah. I think what was difficult for me was my shopping habits and the consumerist habits. Yeah, for sure. I was so used to shop. One of my hobbies, I would be back then, I was so proud to say one of my hobbies was shopping, so I would spend hours in the mall, window shopping or just buying stuff, fast fashion, because, it was cute and it was trendy.
Exactly.
So that definitely cutting back on my fashion habits and kind of evaluating what I'm buying, where I'm putting my money. I think that was the difficult part for me. And it's even still something that I'm also working towards because, now that I'm shopping more sustainably, more sustainable brands, more secondhand, it's not about shifting my consumerist habits from fast fashion to sustainable fashion, because I think to me, like the issue isn't necessarily are you buying more sustainable, it's more like how much are you buying, like how much are you contributing, and that's still something that I'm also like figuring out, but I definitely think it's much better than back then when I would just go shopping like every week.
I feel like, yes, you could, buy all these environmental friendly products, you can, support all these brands, but in the end, if you're not reducing your consumption, you really are not, it's the same thing. So it's like, I mean, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you feel like, hey, maybe my actions are not, that important. I can't change anything. So why bother, But I feel like I said, it's like a compounding effect. I feel like the more we support and build a community, people are going to feel inspired and continue doing this, practicing sustainability anyway. How exactly did you decide to start, like, to become serious and, start documenting your journey and also start sharing content for, a bigger audience?
I think what came to mind is that as I was researching and finding all these information, I mean, back then it was just a few years ago, but I felt like these were things that how come I didn't know about? How come people weren't sharing all of this? Yeah. So I wish I had someone or followed someone that shared all this knowledge. So that kind of got me thinking. I think, I could create a platform that could just share this knowledge. And I honestly didn't really care about, getting famous or whatnot. It's just that as long as this information or knowledge reached people, like that was good enough for me. Like to me, what's important is that people get as much information as they can, reflect on it, and then make decisions based on that. So, kind of like you and with this podcast, it's like you want to reach people, you want to share these resources. And I think that's important to have, having this community that can share resources. And I think thankfully because of that, I've surrounded myself more with people that also share these resources. And I've learned so much along the way, and I'm still learning. So I hope I can continue to do the same for other people. Yeah. So just having this whole community. Yeah.
That's so amazing. I was earlier visiting your Instagram page, and I feel like you have a lot of people that are following you and really understanding, and interacting with the content that you share. And it's so, like I said, it's so educational, and I feel like it's not sugar-coated. It's not really, commercialized. I follow some accounts that, yes, they're really cool, but I feel like it's just one trend that it's going to go away eventually, when people get bored with it. And I'm worried about that. I feel like it's not really a trend, it's a lifestyle, and it's it has a bigger purpose. Your audience understands that, so that's really interesting. So what is something alarming most people don't know about fast fashion?
I can only assume that people are at least vaguely aware of what's going on, maybe not necessarily with the fast fashion industry, but just the climate and the environment in general, whether they believe it or not. But, I think the current situation is already super alarming, just what's going on the bigger spectrum. Like in Canada, for example, where I'm from, just the increase in temperature, you're getting rougher seas, more flooding. And then on the opposite end, you have more wildfires, drought, permafrost in the north that is melting, damaging infrastructures, and really impacting the life of the people who live in the north. So I think that's why I like resources like these type of podcasts or things that I try to share, just to help people not only understand what's going on out there, but also try to give things that they can do.
So fast fashion has been in the spotlight not only for its negative effect on the environment, but also because some companies have refused to pay manufacturing companies. What do you think we could do in order to push and advocate for these people, especially nowadays in times of pandemic?
So I think it's important for us to understand that for me, for example, coming from the Western society, I'm only seeing it from my lens, and this is really the garment workers and their fight with the country, with the people that they're working with. And I think what we could do is really, not only share the resources, share and make this more visible, but also support these organizations that are directly working with these garment workers, that are directly helping them to unionize, you know, because at the end of the day, it's not necessarily like we're not directly impacted, you know, it's not our living conditions that are like at stake here, it's their living conditions. This is, you know, we want to support them, we want to amplify their voices. This is the garment workers should be at the forefront of this whole campaign. It shouldn't be the people that are like myself supporting it, you know. I shouldn't be the face, or these influencers exactly shouldn't be the face. It's the garment workers that should be at the forefront of this, and we as people that have the privilege of supporting them should be there as much as we can to make their issues known, but also that it could lead to action, so that we can help them get unionized, we can help them, you know, get the living or the proper wages and conditions that they are demanding. So I think it's important not only to put visibility on that, but actually also support the actual organizations that are directly helping them. Yeah.
The thing about media is that great things can happen when people unite, when people share important things like this. And the more we share, you know, people, it gains exposure, and that's how people become aware. Telling friends about it, I feel like it has a huge impact. You said that in order to get serious about, you know, sustainability, we also have to explore politics. Why is that?
Mm-hmm. So I think that it's important to understand that, like, it's not just individual action. Like, we as an individual can do so much with what is given to us. And some people have more privilege of like for example, myself, I admit I have more privilege in thinking of, okay, I can make more sustainable choices. But for some people, it's not fully accessible. And why is that? It's the current system that we have in place. Some systems favor certain individuals, and the system favors certain individuals, while others just don't have the same privilege or the same access to be able to make these individual choices. So I think it's important to get political because, you know, it's not a problem that is only based on the individual. This is a bigger spectrum. If we really want to create change, we need to make sure that at the collective level, there is also change. So that is why I think it's super important to get political, to ask your representative, to ask these people who are in power, not just a government, but also corporations that emit 70% of like the greenhouse gases. You know, these people that are in power, we as individuals, there's so much that we can do. We need to make sure that these people who are in power also do something.
And are held accountable. Yes.
Exactly.
How accessible really is it for people that are, you know, working class, you know, they barely, you know, have their needs met? Is it that easy, or where is the problem?
I think that it's also important to think of it why, or asking ourselves why people do certain things. So sometimes it's not just about cost, sometimes it's also about convenience. There's a lot, you know, every person's life or every person's journey is different. So why I do certain things that may impact the planet may not be the same as what you do or what another person does. So I would say, like, in terms of it being affordable or expensive, or if it's easy, I think it really just depends on your mindset and your own actions and your own, like, what are you doing in life? Like, for me, it was difficult because I had that consumerist habit of always buying cheap, of buying a lot. And then I had to change my mindset and rethink about, okay, it's to me, what is the value of going sustainable? And I think it goes way beyond the scope of the price, because it's just society that has been feeding us so many habits, so many things about, okay, what's expensive, what's affordable, you know. It's like we have to think about it beyond the price and just what value does it bring to our life, and then how we go according to that. So I think that's more important than thinking of it than just the price point.
Right.
Yeah.
I have this clear memory of, when I was in college and I was, just chilling on campus before a class. And I befriended this guy, he would clean, that area. It was the business center of, the school. And one day we just got into a conversation about recycling. He said recycling and being sustainable is for the rich, Where I come from, people don't have the luxury to even, buy this brand, buy organic, buy cruelty free, buy, or eat this and that, and in a way I didn't really know what to say because like, where do I go from there? I was 20, 21.
Yeah. For sure.
All I could do is listen and try to educate myself, because I mean, there has to be a deeper problem, and
Yeah, for sure.
Really, unfortunately, some things are not accessible to all. And I was reading this article where even to get rid of trash, they choose to do it conveniently in places, in neighborhoods where they're, it's low income, communities. I mean, why would they do that to people? Why don't they do these things in areas where they're, middle upper class communities? I mean, imagine the trouble and the problem it would cause, but
people who are just like rich in general, have the money, who are privileged, this system favors them. And I think that's completely wrong. So I think this is why, like you said, these low income communities or these middle class income communities, it's easier for these governments or for whoever's in charge of dumping certain things in this landfill to do that, because to them, they don't really have as much influence. They don't really have as much power. But then it goes back to the whole system of like, why do they not have as much power? Why do they not have as much influence? And it's just like this whole toxic loop that's been going on for years. And I think that's why it's so important to get political. As I said, this is the system. That's the problem. Like, why are certain things the way they are right now? And why is it unjust for certain people and just for the privileged or for other people?
All these companies that sell water, for instance, they don't sell water. They sell...
Oh yeah, I read that too. Yeah, exactly.
That's true. I mean, why do you need to buy, bottled water? I mean, you can just get it from your,
yeah, exactly.
Or boil water. My grandmother used to boil water because I was born and raised in Peru. So unfortunately in Peru, there's, you can't just drink out of, the drink. So you have to boil it. I remember one time I bought like huge, I mean, this was when I was 15, 16. I remember I bought like bottles of water from the market, and she yelled at me. She's like, why? This is the stupidest thing you could do.
Yeah.
Because you were just buying the package. Like, why do you have water? You just boil it and, store it.
For sure. Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because when I through this whole journey, I also kind of went volunteering abroad. So I went volunteering in the Philippines, where my parents are from. And there too, the water, it's like, it's not safe to just drink. I mean, some regions it's okay, but where I was volunteering, it was like a faraway village that was, secluded from like the big cities. So the water is more questionable there. And they would always say they would buy these big jugs of those waters, like the water cooler types. And they would say, whenever you brush your teeth, or, this is also drinking water. Like, you have to use this water, like this big jug of plastic water. So it was pretty interesting. I actually don't know why they didn't ask us to just boil a lot of water. I think maybe it was just more convenient for all the volunteers there to have this big jug of water. But it was pretty interesting.
Communities outside these first world countries, they have solutions for a lot of things, and common sense is one of them. When like I was telling you, my grandma, I feel like every Latino family, and I bet also, Asian communities, because
for sure.
in this sense is that, you know, even the butter, like she would use it and at the same time use the packaging for like to start like beans, whatever, you know. And, like for her it was like, why would you throw it away, you know?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like I think like there's so many solutions out there that, you know, like for example, in the Philippines, we use a lot of banana leaves as plates, and then now in this Western society, we're seeing this revolutionized innovation of like having plates out of banana leaves. But it's like it's existed for so long, and it's just interesting how to see, like, for sure, there's definitely solutions that are out there that can be used here. It's just for us, I feel like we're so stuck with that mentality of, but that's so archaic. It's not innovative enough, you know. But sometimes you just have to go back to the roots, and that's already good enough. You know, so.
But what I was saying is that, you know, there is a way, I feel, and that was a question that is always in my mind. Like, is there a way that, I mean, is it possible to kind of live the life that you want and experience the things that you want to experience and travel to the places that you want to travel and practice sustainability at the same time?
So I do think like living a sustainable life does come with its sacrifices, and I'm loosely using the word sacrifice because I think it's just we lived, or for example in my case, I lived a certain way because I had a certain mindset, certain things that I would think about, certain things that I put more importance on. And honestly, no matter what we do, there's always going to have an impact on the environment. It's just about choosing where you want to cut back in certain places. Like whatever you do, you're always going to have an impact. There's always going to be something that you're doing is always going to take some resources. Exactly. It's just impossible unless you stop living, right? So I think it's just, you know, thinking before I was putting a lot of the importance on the material stuff, on the clothes. And I think it's just you just have to think about, you know, why am I doing this? Why am I putting so much in? Like, why am I shopping so much? Like, what's the reason of me doing something? And then where can I cut back? So I think you also, what comes with sustainability is you also have to be mindful of your own impact and like what you're doing in your journey or in your life, and cutting back where you think, you know, it's possible for you to cut back. So I don't think you need to be completely like from 0 to 100. You need to be like, okay, I can't do anything fun anymore. I can't do this. I can't travel, because honestly, let's be real, like, you know, no matter your sustainable influencer or anyone who's sustainable, if you have the chance to like travel and you love exploring cities, like you are going to travel or explore because it is still your life, you know. You're not going to just there's no point of being unhappy but fully sustainable. You know, you can still be happy and you can still be sustainable and do what you can for the planet. It's just for you to reflect on your actions, why you've been doing things a certain way, why you've been putting importance on certain things over others. And then from that, you can decide, okay, where can I be more sustainable? That's why I try to, like, as a first step for sustainability, I think it's super important to reflect on your own lifestyle and see, okay, this is what I do, why do I do this, and where can I cut back?
At the same time, I feel like the biggest impact that we could do is just advocacy, really, and, you know, you know, be active, you know, and definitely understand what each government, you know, is doing, what their decisions are causing, what industries are polluting, you know, what are specific, you know, things we can target, and who we can hold accountable as well, you know, because I feel like if we did that, we could help in a huge, you know,
for sure. Like, honestly, at this point, like in time of where we are with the government, everything that's going on, individual actions, like I'm gonna say we're all hypocrites, you know, like no matter what we do, we can be as sustainable as much as we can, but unless there are some systems in place that can make it accessible to everyone, that can make it more convenient to everyone, like there's always going to be something that we can do. Like if these corporations keep doing what they're doing, you know, it's still having an impact on the planet. We're still going to have climate, like irreversible climate change that's going to impact all of our lives. So for sure, like we can do as much as we can, but like you said, it's important that these people in power, do something too. Yeah. And I think it's also very important that we don't judge or shame people who, let's say this person, because I've seen this also, where you have this sustainable person and they're like not vegan, and then they get shamed for not being vegan, or like, why are you buying certain things? And I will admit, like before, I used to have that type of mindset because I didn't really, understand like the bigger picture. And then I was part of this community where I was able to learn and then reflect on my own things. So, everyone is still learning. There's still a lot of things that we don't know about the sustainability sphere. Like it's something that, a lot of new things are happening every day that's making us learn. So we can't be perfect right now, like where we are. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Did you ever experience criticism from family members or friends for being outspoken about your cause?
Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I would call it criticism, but for sure I've had people, like family members more specifically, kind of, I think it would be more like a misunderstanding or kind of not understanding why I'm doing certain things.
Yeah.
Like for example, being vegetarian. So I grew up in a family that's meat eaters, like 100%. Philippines, like they love their pork. So, so it's a huge thing. And I grew up eating, all these types of meats. So when all of a sudden I decided to try to cut back or go vegetarian, they're like, why are you doing this? They would like make jokes, for example, and be like, let's say they would cook something with meat. This is mostly from my dad, but let's say they cook something with meat and they're like, oh no, there's no meat in there, like as a joke. But yeah, I think it's like they at first wouldn't take it seriously and why I'm doing some things, but that's also because they didn't kind of understand why I was doing certain things. But I think like little by little, they obviously started understanding. And I think it's just, again, coming with the mindset, this is just what they've known, this is what they've lived, and then all of a sudden there's like a completely different thing happening. Like, why is this happening?
Yeah.
So like little by little, they became more open-minded. They started understanding, okay, this is why she's doing this. So for sure, I don't know if I would call it criticism, but like, there's definitely like a lack of understanding or just like between me and my family. In terms of friends, I think it was more curiosity of just again understanding why I'm doing certain things. But I think that for sure, like I don't think they've been critical about it, but just wanting to know more, and whether they're joking about it or not, that's just like who they are. Yeah.
Was there ever a moment where you felt uncomfortable or hurt? Because for example, like I'm not fully like vegan or plant-based or even vegetarian. I would be lying if I said that, it would not be honest. I'm Peruvian, and Peruvians also eat fish, chicken, whatever. So, with my family, it's like they know that I'm trying to cut back. They know that I have a bigger understanding, and I feel like I have this responsibility, they understand that. But at the same time, I feel like if one day they see me eating like a piece of ceviche, right? They're like, oh, I thought you were not.
Yeah, I get the same thing. Yeah.
So micro shaming in a way, Did you ever experience that yourself?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think like honestly, as long as they don't force feed, me into doing something, like they respect my choices. So I think that's what's important. I think maybe one part where I did feel a bit uncomfortable and kind of like got mad, I guess, or like upset was, so my mom, like ever since I was younger, she was definitely used to like buying me things. So, and she's also like a big consumer. So she loves to shop. If she loves a good sale, when something's on sale, she'll buy it. And then next thing you know, she's like, oh, I don't actually like it. So I guess like there was a time where I kind of had to have the conversation with her because she bought something and she was like, oh, I bought this, it was on sale and I thought of you. And I was like, oh, well, like I don't really need these clothes. I've been telling you that I've been cutting back. Like, why did you buy this? Because it was on sale. And it obviously came from like one of those fast fashion brands. So that was a bit of an uncomfortable, like I had to have that uncomfortable conversation with my mom. Kind of got a bit heated, but now she kind of like understands like what I'm trying to do, and now she's kind of like proud of me. So I'm hoping like she respects also what I do. So hopefully we haven't had any of those incidents since then. So yeah.
That's so funny. My mom says she's scared of what to give me. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I don't know what you don't like anymore. And I'm like, well, are you saying it to make a joke or,
Yeah.
In general, I really don't like, I really don't care about leather. I don't care about like, some people are like, oh, look at the shoes. They're like made of like crocodile skin or whatever. I don't care about that. Really, I'm not that much of a like accessory kind of girl. I do like fashion though, and that's something that it was hard for me to cut back a little, especially on like fast fashion companies.
Yeah,
so accessible, and it's like they're so cute. Yes, I mean you go every day and there's something new.
And they're cheap, so you're like, okay, let me get it.
And you go, okay, let me buy, but definitely had to cut back. How about clothing? Did you ever get like criticism?
I've definitely had those talks. So it's interesting. Like for example, one of my cousins, he owns like a vintage company, so they sell like more vintage sportswear, and his mom is like my aunt. She was like, why are you selling secondhand things? Like, like who would buy that? So for sure there's like a different mindset there, but I think like slowly they're learning, because we're also having these conversations on why we're doing what we're doing. And sometimes my mom, she obviously still shops, but sometimes she would buy like a secondhand bag and she would be so proud. She'd come to me and she'd be like, Shanice, look what I found. I bought this bag. It's secondhand. And I was like, oh. So
cool when your family starts getting into
exactly. Yeah.
Becomes cool. And there's so many cool things, especially in stores. Oh my god, one time I found this dress that was so beautiful. I mean, God knows how old it was, who wore it, I don't think it was just beautiful, and those are the pieces that actually mark your personality as well. Because that's the thing about fast fashion. It's cool, it's cheap, accessible, but at the same time it's like you can't really call it unique.
Everyone's just wearing the same trend, basically.
Whereas if you buy at a vintage store, it's like this piece is unique and you appreciate it even more.
Exactly. You cherish it, so you're just like, I'm gonna make sure it stays in my closet for a long time.
Yes, definitely. So how about your audience? Were they welcoming to the kind of content you were sharing?
I would say that I did post something about the fast fashion industry and being like the modern colonial masters. I think there was a post that I done that gained a lot of traction. But I think it's important to have those types of conversations. Like, it was a bit provocative, so I had like all sorts of comments. But those comments also made me think, also. So I think it's important to have those conversations as long as both people are open-minded. So exactly. So I've had those thought-provoking conversations with a lot of people. I even have people who shared with me certain reports that kind of like, for example, someone sent me a report about like the liberation of the Arab movement and how it had to do with the fashion industry. So I didn't fully read it yet, but it was really cool that this person shared it with me, because there was something that I didn't even know about. So I think it's important to have those open-minded conversations, but it's also important to make sure that you don't focus on those haters or those trollers. But thankfully, I haven't had like that much.
Like you said, out of that, out of the content that they share or the questions that they are, spark, definitely there's an opportunity for discussion. And the only requirement I think I would consider is that you have to be open-minded, because especially nowadays, I feel like it's become so hard to kind of disagree without kind of canceling culture, like unfollowed, no more, and like kind of invalidating, like I was saying, the work that you do and the knowledge that you could offer.
I think open-minded like discussions and conversations are just super important, because if we are not open to other people's mindset, we're just going to know the world based on our own surroundings. And like, we're not going to grow. We're not going to see things in a different way. And I think that's definitely like super important, as long as both people are respectful of, like one another as well. I think it's also important because, like you said, we're so many people in this world. Everyone's going to have different opinions. And I think it's important that whether you're Republican or Democrat, if there's an issue that you stand for, like stand, like just take a stand for it, but also be open-minded in what the other party has to say. And who knows, like it's not going to make you like weaker for accepting, okay, this person, what they're saying makes sense. And I think a lot of the times our pride and our stubbornness also comes like into play. But, I think it's super important to just be open and accept, like, okay, what this person says makes sense. Yeah.
So to kind of end the conversation, for someone who wishes to start, living a more sustainable lifestyle and being more eco-friendly in terms of fashion, what are 3 steps they can start doing now?
I think, I can't really say 3 specific actions, because I feel like everyone has a different journey. Like for me, for example, I used to buy a lot of fast fashion. So then to me it was like, okay, cutting back on my fast fashion. Maybe for some people, they've always invested in good pieces and good luxurious brands. So what can they do to kind of cut back on or being more sustainable? So they have their own journey, like what they can do, and then I have like what I can do. I think reflection is definitely important. I think you look at your habits as well, super important. And I think in general, just try to not buy as much. Like try to embrace what you already have and make it work in your own lifestyle. And that just frees up, well, for me personally, that kind of already freed up my thoughts or the things that I would place more time on, not focusing so much on what do I wear, what do I buy, and then focusing more on like, what can I do, or spending quality time with my friends, or spending quality time with myself, and how can I do for personal development or personal growth. And I think that's just like a better way of being like you're just living your life the way you want it, which to me is more fulfilling than what I had back then.
That's so cool. This is not the first time somebody mentioned freedom. I have a person that I interviewed that she said through practicing sustainability and, well, in her case, minimalism, she became free. And what you just said, like, it's, it's incredible, actually. There has to be a correlation between, how we like buy a lot of things, and how we feel inside, how we see ourselves, what we want to prove, or what we want to show, there has to be something deeper, so that's really cool what you just said. All right, are there any accounts, any brands, any brands to follow that you recommend?
So I don't like recommending brands because I feel like there's so much about brands that you can unpack. No one's 100% transparent, so I never know. So it's up to you to make your decisions. Just do your research. But in terms of like accounts to follow, or even just podcasts or any resources, there's this podcast called The Green Dreamer Podcast, which is from the account Kamea Chain. So she always has thought-provoking things that I'm always like, oh wow, like that really resonates with me. And there's Aja Barber as well on Instagram, who's an account that I love and follow, and she's always like, she's just super straightforward. She like gives no shits. Can I say shit? She gives like, she's just like, she does like whatever what she wants. She takes a strong stand on what she believes in, and I really like admire her for that. Another account is the Slow Factory, which I think right now they're doing an open education program that's free, specifically for Black, Indigenous, Brown, people of color, and really amplifying the voices, because most of the teachers are from like the Black, the Brown, the Indigenous, people of color communities. So that's something that's going on right now. So I really,
that's super cool.
Like, yeah, super cool to look
track everybody and mention it.
Yeah. So like I've like listened to a few of the videos, and they're really like eye-opening. So I really recommend that. So I think those 3 or 4 you can definitely start with. There's definitely a lot more, like the intersectional environmentalist, which is a good one as well. So I have a lot. I can send you a list, and then you can just post it. Yeah.
Description box.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the thing. That's the point of all of this, is that we share, valuable content and accounts that are really, really, transparent and working towards a bigger goal. That's really cool. So what's next for you? I mean, you're advocating. What's next? What are you trying to do next?
Yes. So for me, I've recently done a climate reality training in August. So that kind of made me realize there's so much more that I can do. So I'm definitely, I've just recently moved to Toronto, but I'm definitely trying to get more into that climate reality community. Like, they're doing a lot locally. So it's not only in Canada, it's like the US, it's internationally. So I think most countries have like their own chapter of that. So I think for me is really getting involved more with my municipality and seeing what I can do to kind of not just volunteer, but also get political, like we've been talking about this whole podcast. So I'm always going to be sharing resources with my Instagram, my blogs, which have been lacking a bit, but I've like trying to change or reposition my blog platform to be more open. And yeah, definitely, I think that's basically what's next for me. And trying to find opportunities.
I'm so excited to see what you're going to do next.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, one last question. And this one might or might not be able to answer that easily. It says, if you had the power to change one thing to help the planet, what would it be?
Okay, so for this one, I mean, I wish I could change so many things, but okay, so I guess I wouldn't say like the power to change, but maybe like the influence to change. Maybe one thing would kind of be people's mindset, and what I mean by that is not necessarily changing their opinions so that they can align with what I think and what my opinions are, but more, like we've said, hopefully people are more open-minded, are more curious, are, looking for that information, so that they can make decisions that make sense to them, but also takes into consideration the collective and not just the individual. So I guess that's basically what I would change. I think at the end of the day, it's how we as the individuals like communicate, discuss, think that really gets us where we can go. So I think that's probably what I would change if I could. Yeah.
Super cool. Thank you so much for doing this interview. And I hope that maybe in the future we can do another one and you can tell me about the cool projects that you
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you, Gabriela, for inviting me to this. It's been more than an hour that we've been talking, but it was really fun.
Talking for hours. I wish I was in Canada right now. And
I wish I was in Peru right now. I would rather be there.
Well, maybe one day we can meet up once this is all over, this COVID thing.
COVID, yeah, for sure.
Thank you for listening to this episode. You liked what you heard? Tell me what you liked in the review section, and if you want more episodes like this, please share your suggestions. After this episode, the conversation continues in our new Facebook group. Let me know by joining us at the Invernadero Mind Facebook group and share your thoughts. I can't wait to see you there.